So let's talk about the psychological screening dimensions. They are based in California Post on the peace officer duties, powers, demands, and working conditions defined by the department. Now, what that implies is that although Post has minimum criteria that are laid on top of the statutory requirement. Remember, the statutory requirement is that you be free of any conditions which would impair your ability to perform the duties of the position. That's the statutory requirement. The regulatory requirement of assessing the Post Big Ten dimensions, which we'll talk about shortly, is overlaid on top of that. So now your minimum qualifying criteria in the state of California for a peace officer position has grown from the statutory floor to now a regulatory floor. On top of that, Post says, talk to your agency. They may have some additional requirements that they want to impose. I can tell you that the criteria for a successful police officer in the Lake Oswego, Oregon Police Department, a very affluent, well-educated community where the average education is a master's degree, is very, very different than the Portland Police Bureau requirements, or Eastern Oregon. So talk to your individual agencies, find out what additional criteria. Now, you can't do that unless you first start with some corpus of criteria, some basic criteria. Again, we have no statutory requirement, and we have no regulatory requirement in Oregon, so I begin with the California Post dimensions. And I tell an agency, these are the criteria that I would use absent any guidance from you. Do you wish to supplement them, clarify, modify in any way these dimensions? Yes, Joe?
Actually, the state of California for state employees has a rule called 172, which has this large, encompassing, thorough, accurate, free from blah, 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 responsible kinds of things, which fits everybody in the state. That's used as the first criteria.
Okay.
Then there's 1031F, and then there's Post.
Great.
So when disqualify somebody who does not meet the following requirements.
That's for state employees.
State employees.
Okay, so Joe's describing another layer that would be even foundational to 1031F, which is the statutory requirement in California.
For the some 45 peace officer definition of job description.
But you're not including municipal police officers. That's only for state employees, okay? Great. So that's important to be knowledgeable about those as well. They're likely to already be incorporated in some way into the 1031F, and so even if you weren't knowledgeable of them, you probably have them covered, I would guess, by 1031F.
As a practical matter, sometimes you really can't pin anything on 1031F or the Big Ten, but it does manage to fit the 172 requirement.
Good. So he's saying even if you couldn't fit it into the 1031F or the post Big Ten, it might pertain to this foundational regulatory standard for all state employees.
And the two major classes are state traffic officer and corrections.
Right. Okay. So let's go to the next one, Victoria. Thank you. Post also stipulates that this information shall be provided to the evaluator along with any other information that will allow the evaluator to make a psychological suitability determination. That is, what are the risk tolerances? And again, the post 10 dimensions are minimal criteria.